Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Standoff in South Korea as investigators attempt to arrest impeached President Yoon for second time. Gaza ceasefire appears closer as US-Egyptian leaders put focus on coming hours. US to remove Cuba from state sponsors of terrorism list, while Cuba to release 553 prisoners. As TikTok ban in the US looms, millions of users flock to Chinese app Red Note. Lawmakers urge Biden to extend ban deadline. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to dedicate 3 frontline naval combatants to the nation during his visit to Maharastra, will also inaugurate ISKCON Temple. And in sports, Indian women's team aims for a clean sweep against Ireland as they face each other in the third and final ODI of the 3-match series. Let's get you updates from South Korea first. Authorities investigating impeached President Yoon Su-yeol entered his official residence on Wednesday in a fresh bid to arrest him over last month's failed martial law bid. In a morning high drama, investigators from the Corruption Investigation Office, along with police personnel, marched up the road leading to Yoon's hillside villa, where the impeached president has been holed up for weeks, guarded by a small army of personal security. They were blocked by hundreds of pro-Yoon protesters and members of his People Power Party. However, some personnel climbed the wall and entered the compound. Investigators did not consider a request by Yoon's lawyers for him to voluntarily appear because of the risk of a serious situation between the rival forces. Yoon has resisted arrest since a short-lived December 3rd power grab plunged the country into its worst political crisis in decades after he directed soldiers to storm parliament in a bid to stop lawmakers from voting down his move. A first attempt to arrest Yoon on January 3rd failed after a tense hours-long standoff with his presidential security service, who refused to budge when investigators tried to execute their warrant. The former star prosecutor, who has already been suspended from duty by lawmakers, would become the first sitting president in South Korean history to be arrested if the court-ordered warrant is carried out. Yoon's impeachment trial, which will decide if he is removed from office, started on Tuesday but adjourned within minutes because of his absence. Next hearing will be held on January 16th. Let's get you updates on Israel-Hamas conflict now. Negotiators were near to hammering out the final details of a ceasefire in Gaza on Wednesday after marathon talks in Qatar. Qatar, Egypt and the United States have intensified efforts to broker a ceasefire to enable the release of hostages taken during Hamas's October 7, 2023 attack on Israel. More than 8 hours of talks in Doha had fueled optimism. Officials from mediators, Qatar, Egypt and the US, as well as Israel and Hamas, said an agreement for a truce in the besieged enclave and release of hostages was closer than ever.
That we are at a developed stage. We do believe that we are at the final stages, but obviously until there is an announcement, there will be no announcement, and therefore we shouldn't be overexcited about what's happening right now, but certainly we are hopeful that this would lead very soon to an agreement. So the main reason why we are more optimistic right now is, as I said, during the past months there were underlying issues, major issues between the two parties unresolved. These issues were resolved during the talks in the past couple of weeks, and therefore we have reached a point where the major issues that were preventing a deal from happening were addressed, and we have language pertaining to these issues that has been distributed between both parties.
Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar, meanwhile, said during a visit to Rome that there was a true willingness from our side to reach an agreement.
I believe that if we will achieve this hostage deal, we will have a majority in the government that will support the agreement. So this is the simple answer. I believe, I know, there is a true willingness from our side to reach an agreement.
Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi discussed negotiations for a ceasefire and hostage release deal in Gaza on Tuesday. White House in a statement said both the leaders committed to remain in close coordination directly and through their teams over the coming hours. The leaders emphasized the urgent need for a deal to be implemented. The two leaders also discussed surging humanitarian aid in Gaza. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, meanwhile, said that it is up to Hamas to seal a Gaza ceasefire, saying a final proposal is on the table at the talks in Qatar.
Over the past several weeks, our intensive efforts have brought us to the brink of full and final agreement. On Sunday, the United States, Qatar, and Egypt put forward a final proposal. The ball is now in Hamas's court. If Hamas accepts, the deal is ready to be concluded and implemented.
Russian forces are intensifying their slow but relentless advance in eastern Ukraine, claiming control of two key settlements in Donetsk. Russia's defense ministry announced the capture of Terny near the contested town of Siversk and Neskyukne to the south, both pivotal in Moscow's campaign for the region. However, Ukraine's general staff reported fierce resistance with Terny and Neskyun among the several locations under heavy attack during 17 armed clashes. 5 of those battles were ongoing late into the evening, and Ukrainian troops reportedly repelled advances in several areas. The Biden administration has notified Congress that it will remove Cuba from its list of state sponsors of terrorism as part of a prisoner release deal. Cuba welcomed the move as a step in the right direction, but lamented it was still under US sanctions in place since 1962. Cuba said on Tuesday that it would release 553 prisoners imprisoned for diverse crimes in response to the announcement. Cuba blames the US blockade for its worst economic crisis in decades, marked by shortages of fuel, food, medicines, and electricity. Cuba has been one of the just 4 nations designated as state sponsors of terrorism, along with North Korea, Iran, and Syria.
Whether it's one bill or 2 bills, it's going to get...
The move will likely be overturned after the return to office next week of Republican Donald Trump, who reinstated Cuba's terror designation in the final days of his first term of office in 2021. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo designated Cuba as a state sponsor of terrorism in January 2021, just days before leaving office, saying at the time that Havana was providing support for acts of international terrorism. As Donald Trump's inauguration is coming closer, Mexico is trying to come up to the US president-elect's expectations. There are signals from Mexican side that it may be willing to accept non-Mexicans deported from the US. Mexican efforts are taking place in response to Trump's threats to curb on migration and flow of the drugs to US. Though putting her own point of view in public, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has intensified crackdown against migrants traveling towards the US border by detaining an unprecedented 475,000 migrants between October and December. This has left open the possibility that Mexico might be willing to accept non-Mexicans deported from the US. Her government has also seized a record 1,100 kilograms of illicit fentanyl and unveiled new tariffs against some Asian goods and confiscated counterfeit Chinese products in several Mexican cities. This might please Donald Trump, as he had repeatedly accused the Mexican government of not doing enough to stop migrants and drugs from entering the US, and has threatened sweeping 25% tariffs on Mexican goods coming into the US, and had spoken against Chinese plants setting up shop in Mexico. British Minister Tulip Siddiqui, responsible for financial services and fighting corruption, resigned on Tuesday after weeks of questions over her financial ties to her aunt Sheikh Hasina, ousted last year as Prime Minister of Bangladesh. Tulip Siddiqui had repeatedly denied any wrongdoing, and Prime Minister Keir Starmer said last week that he had full confidence in her. The resignation of a second government minister in 2 months is a blow to Starmer. Siddiqui's departure follows the resignation of British Transport Minister Louis High late last year. Siddiqui was handed the portfolio of financial services policy after the election. Starmer swiftly appointed Emma Reynolds, who was a pensions minister, to Siddiqui's role. Siddiqui was named in December as part of Bangladesh's investigation into whether her family were involved in siphoning off funds from Bangladeshi infrastructure projects. Powerful winds forecast for late Tuesday night threaten to trigger massive fires that are still burning around Los Angeles. A week after blazes erupted and spread uncontained, forecasters predicted particularly dangerous Santa Ana winds would spike the wildfire threat anew for already exhausted firefighters. National Weather Service has warned people to stay aware of their surroundings and be ready to evacuate. A large part of Southern California was under a red flag warning till Wednesday, indicating that intense dryness and furious winds gusting up to 70 miles an hour would make conditions ripe for wildfire. The deadly wildfire that has claimed the lives of 24 people has put more than 88,000 people under evacuation order. As 12,000 structures have been damaged, search teams have been using cadaver dogs to scour the rubble for days in the hunt of dozens of people still unaccounted for.
Devastating. For Kamala and for so many of you, it's home. She and I and our entire administration have been working closely with Governor Newsom, Senator Padilla, Senator Schiff, the entire congressional delegation to make sure California has every possible resource to fight these fires and help the survivors.
US TikTok users are flocking to the Chinese social media app Xiongju, making it the top downloaded app in the US as the threat of a TikTok ban looms large. The US Supreme Court is due to rule out on a law that stipulates TikTok must be divested from its Chinese parent company ByteDance by January 19th or face a ban in the US over national security concerns. Known as Xiaohongshu in China, Red Note is a social media platform that includes images, short-term videos, community building tools, shopping and more. It is not a one-to-one TikTok clone, and it is owned by Shanghai-based Shingen Information Technology. Meanwhile, 2 Democratic lawmakers on Monday urged Congress and President Joe Biden to extend the deadline for ByteDance to sell the U.S. assets of TikTok. The Supreme Court held arguments on Friday on TikTok and ByteDance's challenge to the law. A lawyer for the company said it would be impossible to complete a sale by next week's deadline. Brazilian authorities have expressed serious concern over a recent announcement by the social media giant Meta that they will ease their policies restricting incendiary speech and fact-checking. Brazil had given Meta a 72-hour deadline to explain its policy for the country after the shock announcement last week by company chief executive Mark Zuckerberg that he was ditching independent fact-checking in the US. The social media giant assured Brazil the policy would not extend to other countries until Meta had fully tested a new community notes system, which will replace third-party fact-checkers. This system allows ordinary users to leave notes on potentially misleading posts in a model similar to that popularized by X. A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world. At the annual Voodoo Festival in Oira, Benin Republic, women performed wild dances and backflips, entering a trance-like state. The event featured elaborate masks and costumes, highlighting the rich cultural heritage of Benin's Vodun community, which is renowned globally for its mystique and rituals. The festival draws tourists and worshippers, offering a large program of ceremonies, concerts and exhibitions. Guitars belonging to late musician Jeff Beck go on display this week before being auctioned off. Some 130 guitars amps and other equipment which Beck played or used until his last tour will be on display. The price ranges from £100 for a flying V-shaped ukulele to £350,000 to £500,000 for Oxblood Les Paul featured on Blow by Blow. The guitars were previously on show in Los Angeles in December. Starbucks has reversed its policy allowing anyone to use its bathrooms, now requiring customers to make a purchase or leave. Starbucks' new code of conduct states that its cafes, patios and restrooms are now prioritized for paying customers, a policy similar to that of most retailers. The company aims to ensure its spaces are used primarily by customers. Spanish police apprehended a gang suspected of smuggling more than 40,000 tons of untreated urban waste from Italy to Spain. Police said Italian waste treatment companies had paid smugglers over $19.5 million since 2021 to dispose of the waste, including hazardous and toxic materials. 15 people and 7 companies are under investigation. You're watching DD India Live. We're heading for a short break. Stay with us.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live, and in news just coming in, there is a big blow for South Korea's suspended president Yoon. Yoon is arrested by graft agency, and he's arrested over his imposition of martial law last month. Yoon has agreed to appear for questioning. Up on your screens, we have the latest coming in from South Korea. Earlier in the bulletin, we told you about the developments in the country, and now this is the latest coming in. Big blow for South Korea's suspended president Yoon Su-yeol. Police earlier was close. In fact, it closed in on the hillside villa where Yoon is holed up. And up on your screens, we have the latest coming in. Yoon agrees to appear for questioning. Remember, this is the second attempt by the authorities to arrest Yoon, and high drama unfolded in South Korea. Yoon's lawyers argue arrest attempts are illegal, but here we see that the authorities there have arrested South Korea's suspended president Yoon Su-yeol. Yoon has been arrested by the graft agency. South Korean authorities impeached President Yoon Su-yeol earlier as they attempted to enter his residence during their first attempt. However, since yesterday, high drama unfolded in South Korea. Video footage showed hundreds of police officers marching up the road leading to his hillside villa where he was holed up for weeks, guarded by a small army of personal security. So these are the visuals, the latest visuals we're getting for you from South Korea. Yoon has been arrested by the graft agency. This is unprecedented in South Korean history. Yoon has been arrested over the martial law attempt. However, Yoon has agreed to appear for questioning. So this was the latest we were getting for you from South Korea. In the bulletins that follow through the day, we will be tracking this development and we'll get you more. Meanwhile, let's turn focus to other updates which we're tracking this hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be on a one-day visit to Maharashtra on 15th of January. Prime Minister's first engagement will be dedication of 3 frontline naval combatants, INS Surat, INS Nilgiri and INS Vakshir, to the nation on their commissioning at the naval dockyard in Mumbai.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will dedicate 3 potent platforms of Indian Navy, INS Surat, INS Vakshir and INS Nilgiri at their commissioning ceremony on Wednesday in Mumbai, Naval Dockyard. INS Surat is the fourth and the last ship of the Project 15B guided missile destroyer project, having an indigenous content of 75% and is equipped with state-of-the-art weapon sensor packages and advanced network-centric capabilities. It is also the first AI-enabled Indian naval ship. The ship ranks among the largest and most sophisticated destroyers in the world. INS Nilgiri is the first ship of the Project 17A stealth frigate project and has been designed by the Indian Navy's Warship Design Bureau. Equipped with advanced features for enhanced survivability, seakeeping, and stealth, it reflects the next generation of indigenous frigates. INS Vakshir is the sixth and final submarine of the Project 75 Scorpene project. It is a diesel-electric attack submarine based on the Scorpene class and has the ability to launch a crippling attack on the enemy using precision-guided weapons with both 18 torpedoes and tube-launched anti-ship missiles at the same time, underwater or surfaced. It represents India's growing expertise in submarine construction. The commissioning of 3 major naval combatants marks a significant leap forward in realizing India's vision of becoming a global leader in defense manufacturing and maritime security.
The commissioning of INS Nilgiri, INS Surat and INS Vakshir showcases the significant strides India has made in naval shipbuilding. Their development underscores the commitment of India's self-reliance towards defense manufacturing. Shama Mishra, DD India, Mumbai.
During his visit to Mumbai, Prime Minister Modi will also inaugurate Asia's second largest ISKCON Temple being built in Kharghar, Navi Mumbai. In a significant diplomatic engagement, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met King Philip VI of Spain in Madrid on Tuesday. The meeting marked a reaffirmation of strong ties between the two nations as Jaishankar conveyed the greetings and well wishes of President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the Spanish monarch. During his visit to Spain, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held a pivotal meeting with Spanish President Pedro Sanchez in Madrid, marking a significant step forward in the long-standing relationship between India and Spain. In his first visit to Spain as External Affairs Minister, Jaishankar had a productive meeting with Spanish Defense Minister Margarita Robles in Madrid. Both the leaders discussed strengthening bilateral cooperation in the defense sector as also regional and global issues. On to sports, India will face Ireland in the third and final Women's One-Day International in Rajkot on Wednesday, aiming to complete a series sweep after 2 dominant victories. In the first ODI, Pratika Rawal and Tejal Hasabnis led India to a 6-wicket win. The second ODI saw India score a massive 370-run total, with Jemima Rodrigues smashing a century. Deepti Sharma led the bowling attack to restrict Ireland to 254. With captain Smriti Mandhana leading from the front, India will look to maintain their winning momentum and finish the series on a high. Indian men's team outclassed Brazil 64-34 in a dominant display of skill and strategy to move closer to the knockout stage of the Coco World Cup on Tuesday. Brazil started well in their attack, getting 16 points to their name, but India came back strong. India earned 2 points during a dream run that kept the Brazilians on their toes. Turn 2 was very impressive for the men in blue as they upped the ante while attacking the Brazilians. Brazil piled up the pressure on India in turn 3, scoring an impressive 34 points to set up an exciting final 7 minutes of the match. The match that kept the spectators on the edge of their seats saw India proving their mettle and bouncing back in turn 4. In women's Kho-Kho, India thrashed South Korea 175-18 to win their opening match on Tuesday. Indian captain Priyanka Ingle won the toss and opted to defend. The decision paid off as her teammates registered 2 dream runs, while South Korea could only manage 10 points. India remained in total control of the match with an 84-point lead at the end of this second turn. They secured 1 more dream run in the third turn. India attained the 100-point mark in the fourth turn and went on to cross the 170-run mark, clinching a comprehensive win. That's it in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.